Today on Sports Central, we'll be going over my final edition of my 2020 college football rankings for this 2020 season, and these are going to be for the bowl season, which will last us all the way until January 11th when this college football season officially ends. This is my final edition for this 2020 year, and this has certainly been quite a season of college football, and last week was no different. We saw our conference championships all go down in Alabama. Of course, they had their dominant win over Florida, which Florida had a scare there in the end, but still Alabama got the win. We saw a huge Clemson win over Notre Dame. We saw Ohio State over Northwestern, and even Oklahoma over Iowa State. So it's been quite a season, especially for those teams in the Big 12 that played each other this past Saturday. Nonetheless, we're going to be going over our rankings here today for the bowl season. Once again, this will be our final edition, and we're going to be starting out with 1 through 7. We got Alabama coming in at number 1, which is certainly not a surprise in the slightest there. They beat Florida 52-46. This past week, which was a huge win. And Florida, after getting that 2-point conversion, that brought them within 6. That's going to be a scary moment there for Alabama for a second there, because Florida, if they could have just driven down the field there, they could have won that game outright, but they're still 11-0, and Alabama's going to be number 1 as we head into the bowl season. Clemson's going to be number 2. They beat Notre Dame 34-10. That was quite an impressive win there out of the Tigers. They're 10-1 as we head into the bowl season. Ohio State's going to be number 3. They beat Northwestern 22-10, and that was kind of a scary game there for the Bucks. It was pretty close there for a long time, but they still managed to get the win there. And we've got a 6-0 team in the college football playoff. Texas A&M's coming in at number 4 for me, and if you guys saw my post previously today on whether or not Texas A&M or Notre Dame would be in that 4 position, I thought the committee would put Notre Dame at number 4. I did not think that Notre Dame was going to drop 3 spots to number 5 in the committee's rankings, mainly because it's just not with the pattern for the college football playoff committee to do that. For Notre Dame to lose to a Clemson team that was number 3 in the college football playoff rankings before this week, it wouldn't have made much sense for Notre Dame to drop 3 spots. So I did expect Notre Dame to be placed at number 4 in the college football playoff committee's rankings. However, I've got Texas A&M at number 4 in my rankings. I think Texas A&M is genuinely right now a better team than Notre Dame. If you put the Aggies and Notre Dame head-to-head right now, I'm pretty sure Texas A&M would win. I think Texas A&M has improved a ton over the season, and all around, this is a team that, there were a lot of question marks around them earlier on in the season, especially after their blowout loss to Alabama. But ever since, Texas A&M has been very good, and they've really improved on the season. So really, good for them as they head into the bowl season. And even though I think Texas A&M probably should be in the top 4, I'm still okay with Notre Dame being in there. I think Notre Dame and Alabama should still make for a good matchup. Just Texas A&M, they've been very, very good over the last couple of weeks. Last week was no different. They beat Tennessee 34-13, and that's what moves them up 1, and they're 8-1. Notre Dame moves down 3 spots this week to number 5 after they lost to Clemson 10-34 in the ACC championship game, and they're 10-1 as well. As for Oklahoma, they beat Iowa State 27-21 in the Big 12 championship game, and they're 8-2. And Oklahoma certainly has been, I'd say, the most improved team of the season. Oklahoma started off the year 1-2, and they've won 7 straight. They beat Iowa State, a team that they lost to earlier on in the season. And I'd say for Oklahoma, this has been a pretty good season considering how they started it off. So, for Oklahoma to be right back in this top 6 is pretty impressive out of them this season. Cincinnati comes in at number 7 after beating Tulsa in the American Athletic Conference Championship. 27-24 was the final score there. And personally, I don't think Cincinnati should be top 4 this season. Cincinnati is a good team. There's no doubt about that. But for them to be top 4, I don't think they should be top 4. You can make an argument that they could be top 6, maybe even top 5. But Cincinnati is definitely a team that should be at least top 7. And I think it's disrespectful to put Cincinnati any lower than number 7 right now. Considering this team is 9-0. They've been very dominant all season. They just won a conference championship. So, Cincinnati's been very dominant. It's just a matter of the committee showing them respect, which the committee has really downplayed Cincinnati quite a bit this season. That's how your final 7 ends up for me. It's pretty crazy to see, especially, at the beginning of the season, many people, including myself, I wouldn't have expected Cincinnati up here. Cincinnati's been a big surprise team this season. Moving on to 8 through 14, we got Indiana coming in at number 8. And they moved down from 7 this week in favor of Oklahoma, as Oklahoma moved ahead of them. And Indiana's 6-1 coming into bowl season. Georgia's going to be number 9. They stay at their same position. They're 7-2. Florida's number 10 this week, and they're only moving. I've got them moving up 1 this week. They were actually number 11 last week, and they're moving up to 10 because Alabama's blown out every single team that they played this entire season. That includes Texas A&M, and that includes all of those teams. However, for Florida, Florida did something very different yesterday. They had a close game against Alabama, and they fought. I mean, they fought really hard in that game, and they had quite a matchup, and they had quite a game there against Alabama. Honestly, like Florida, I mean, they played outstanding in that matchup to even keep it close with Alabama, which, once again, the Crimson Tide have been so dominant all season, and Florida had a chance to go out and win that game yesterday. That is a position that not a lot of teams, or no team, has been in this entire season. So for Florida to be able to do that is very impressive, and I think that's worthy of putting them into the top 10. They're 6-3 though, so they are a 3-loss team, but Iowa State is also a 3-loss team after losing to Oklahoma 21-27. They moved down 3 positions this week. Northwestern lost to Ohio State 10-22, but I'm keeping them in the same position at 12, mainly because, I mean, they kept up with Ohio State, which Ohio State's kind of in the same position as Alabama there. They've been dominant all season, and really, I mean, Indiana's the only team that's been having, or that had a close game with Ohio State, and Northwestern added themselves to that club yesterday. Iowa's coming in at 13. They're staying in the same position. They're 6-2. North Carolina's a 8-3 team, and they're moving up 1 this week to 14. Moving on to 15 through 21. Really, no teams played in this section except for USC and Oregon. But Miami's number 15 this week. They're moving up 1, as we did see USC get down, or move down 4 spots this past week. And Miami's 8-2. Coastal Carolina's 11-0, and they're moving up 1 this week. BYU's also moving up 1 this week, and they're 10-1. And then USC, they took a loss to Oregon, 24-31 was the final score there. Terrible loss for the Trojans. I mean, the Trojans were that close. They were 5-0, and they were on the doorstep of making it to a New Year's Six bowl game. And now Oregon's in that position instead of them because USC completely blew it. But yeah, that's a bad deal for USC. But for Oregon, I mean, Oregon took advantage of an opportunity huge. I mean, Washington was supposed to play USC this past week. Oregon took the spot, and they took care of it for sure, as Oregon won that game against USC this past week. And that puts Oregon into the rankings this week at 21. They are 4-2. Louisiana and Texas stay in their same positions at 19-20. Louisiana is 9-1, and then Texas is 6-3. Moving on to 22 through 25, we got Oklahoma State coming in at number 22. They're 7-3. They're moving down 1 this week. And then San Jose State comes into the rankings at 23. Huge surprise team there, as they won the Mountain West Conference Championship this past week. And yeah, they won that game 34-20. So very impressive win out of San Jose State there to beat Boise State. They're 7-0. NC State comes in at 24. They're staying in the same position. They're 8-3. And then Colorado had a bye week as well. They did not play this past week, and they did enter back into the rankings at 25 this week. They're 4-1. So really, Colorado has also had a really good season, especially in the Pac-12. As for the first 5 out, we got Washington coming in at 26. Liberty's at 27. Tulsa 28. Auburn's going to be 29. Stanford will be 30. And as for the teams that dropped out, Tulsa drops out at 22. Liberty drops out at 23. And then Buffalo drops out at 25. That being said, this is a pretty short video, obviously. I mean, we did not see a lot of teams play this past week. And most of the teams that did play were in the top 15. So that's why this kind of went by quickly. But that's your final set of rankings for this 2020 season. It's pretty fun doing these over the course of this season. If you enjoyed this series, please slap a like on this video. And yeah, subscribe as well if you're not already yet, as it really helps the channel, and I really appreciate that. But once again, appreciate you guys all watching. Thanks for sticking around. Yeah, stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. I'll catch you on the next one.